The process of fermentation and its importance in biotechnology. Introduction. 1. Overview of fermentation as a metabolic process. 2. Historical context of fermentation, from ancient practices to modern biotechnology applications. 3. Role of fermentation in various industries, particularly in biotechnology. The fundamentals of fermentation. Definition and types of fermentation. 1. Fermentation, a biochemical process that converts sugars and other organic compounds into simpler molecules, producing energy in the form of ATP. 2. Anaerobic versus aerobic, differences in the availability of oxygen and the resulting pathways, for example, alcoholic fermentation, lactic acid fermentation. 3. Types of fermentation: alcoholic, lactic acid, acetic acid, and mixed acid fermentation. Biochemical pathways of fermentation. 1. Glycolysis, the breakdown of glucose into pyruvate. 2. NAD+ regeneration, the role of NAD+ in sustaining glycolysis during fermentation. 3. Lactic acid fermentation, conversion of pyruvate to lactic acid. 4. Alcoholic fermentation, conversion of pyruvate to ethanol and carbon dioxide. 5. Mixed acid fermentation, multiple products such as lactic acid, acetic acid, ethanol, and gases. Microorganisms involved in fermentation. 1. Yeasts, for example, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, commonly used in alcoholic fermentation. 2. Bacteria, for example, Lactobacillus spp, involved in lactic acid fermentation and dairy fermentation. 3. Fungi and other microorganisms, utilized in the production of antibiotics, enzymes, and other bio-based products. The mechanism of fermentation: glycolysis and the conversion of glucose to pyruvate. 1. Step-by-step breakdown of glycolysis. 2. The generation of ATP and NAD during glycolysis. 3. The fate of pyruvate in anaerobic conditions. Role of NAD+ and NAD. 1. Regeneration of NAD+ via fermentation. 2. Importance in maintaining energy production under anaerobic conditions. Alcoholic fermentation pathway. 1. Conversion of pyruvate to ethanol and carbon dioxide by yeast. 2. Mechanism of alcohol fermentation, including the enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase. Lactic acid fermentation pathway. 1. Conversion of pyruvate to lactic acid in muscle cells and certain bacteria. 2. Impact of lactic acid fermentation on pH and muscle fatigue. Other fermentation pathways. 1. Mixed acid fermentation, multiple products, lactic acid, acetic acid, ethanol. 2. Applications in industrial and pharmaceutical fermentation. Industrial fermentation. Fermentation in biotechnology. 1. Importance of fermentation in biotechnology for producing valuable products. 2. Distinction between primary and secondary metabolites produced during fermentation. Large-scale fermentation. 1. Fermentation in bioreactors and its design. 2. Batch, fed batch, and continuous fermentation processes. 3. Monitoring and controlling fermentation variables, pH, temperature, oxygen, nutrients. Products of industrial fermentation. 1. Food and beverages, ethanol, beer, wine, yogurt, and cheese. 2. Pharmaceuticals, antibiotics, for example, penicillin, vaccines, and enzymes. 3. Biofuels, ethanol, biodiesel, and biogas. 4. Biochemicals, organic acids, amino acids, and vitamins. 3.4 Fermentation and waste management. 1. Use of waste products, for example, lignocellulosic biomass as substrates in fermentation. 2. Bioremediation and the role of fermentation in breaking down pollutants. Applications of fermentation in biotechnology. Fermentation in food and beverage industry. 1. Alcoholic beverages. Fermentation of sugars in fruits or grains to produce ethanol, beer, wine. 2. Dairy products. Use of lactic acid bacteria in yogurt, cheese, and sour cream production. 3. Fermented foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, and miso, and their health benefits. Pharmaceutical industry. 1. Antibiotics. Production of penicillin, cephalosporins, and other antimicrobial agents. 2. Vaccines. Production of viral vaccines using cell cultures and fermentation techniques. 3. Enzymes and hormones, insulin production and other therapeutic enzymes. Biofuels and environmental biotechnology. 1. Fermentation in the production of ethanol from renewable plant materials, corn, sugarcane. 2. Biogas production, methane fermentation from organic waste as a sustainable energy source. 3. Sustainable biofuels, reducing dependence on fossil fuels and minimizing carbon emissions. Biochemical production. 1. Industrial production of organic acids, for example, citric acid, acetic acid, and amino acids. 2. Bioplastics, used of fermentation to produce biodegradable plastics such as polylactic acid, PLA. Advances in fermentation technology. Genetic engineering and metabolic pathway modification. 1. The role of genetic engineering in optimizing fermentation processes. 2. Metabolic engineering to improve yield and efficiency, for example, engineering yeast for bioethanol production. Synthetic biology and fermentation. 1. Creation of synthetic organisms designed for specific fermentation processes. 2. Designing novel biosynthetic pathways to produce valuable compounds. Novel fermentation organisms. 1. Exploring new microbial strains and their potential in industrial fermentation. 2. Microbial consortia and their role in enhanced fermentation efficiency. Advancements in bioreactor design. 1. Improvements in bioreactor systems, from laboratory scale to industrial scale. 2. Continuous versus batch fermentation processes and their benefits. 3. Smart fermentation systems with real-time data monitoring. Challenges in fermentation and biotechnology. Limitations of traditional fermentation. 1. Issues with substrate cost, product yield, and purification. 2. Low tolerance of microorganisms to high product concentrations. 3. Impurities and contamination during fermentation. Scaling up from laboratory to industrial fermentation. 1. Challenges in scaling up fermentation processes for large-scale production. 2. Optimization of fermentation conditions at industrial scales, for example, oxygen transfer, nutrient supply. Environmental and ethical concerns. 1. Sustainability of feedstock sources for fermentation, for example, corn, sugarcane. 2. Genetic modification and ethical concerns surrounding GMOs in fermentation. 3. Environmental impact and waste management during large-scale fermentation. Future directions and solutions. 1. Biorefinery concept, integrated production of biofuels, biochemicals, and bioplastics. 2. Waste-to-value approaches, converting agricultural or industrial waste into valuable fermentation products. The future of fermentation in biotechnology. Emerging trends. 1. Integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning in fermentation process optimization. 2. The role of fermentation in combating climate change by producing sustainable energy solutions. 3. Biotechnology's role in addressing global challenges such as food security and renewable energy. Economic and societal impact. 1. Fermentation as a key technology for creating high-value products at lower costs. 2. The potential for fermentation to drive the green economy and circular bioeconomy. 3. Role in global healthcare and the production of affordable medicines. Conclusion. 1. Summary of fermentation's impact on biotechnology. 2. Future prospects of fermentation technology in addressing global challenges. 3. Importance of continued research, innovation, and education in fermentation and biotechnological processes. This outline can be expanded into 10,000 words by elaborating on each section with additional details, case studies, examples, and a deeper exploration of the biochemical, industrial, and societal aspects of fermentation.